I'll just give a brief introduction about nested loops. Okay, you have to do it yourself. You have to implement questions yourself. Okay, so there are three types of loops, and I'm going to just give you example of. I'm just sharing my screen and just showing you the syntax. So my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so these are the three types of loops that you have: for loop, then initialization, then condition, and increment. So whenever you talk about a loop, there are three things that must be present. First is initialization. Okay, so suppose you want to run your loops 5 times. Okay, so you need to specify initial condition to variable, right? So that initialization is initial condition for that variable. Okay, condition is you want to run this loop 5 times, so your condition is up to 5, right? So you will specify, suppose you have taken a variable I, so you will initialize I is equals to 1 initially, and you will say while I less than is equals to 5. Okay, so condition is I less than equals to 5. And increment is because every time you want it to 1 to 2, 2 to 3, you want I to be incremented. So I is equals to I plus 1. So in every loop, these three things must be present. So this is the syntax of a for loop. So for initialization, condition, and increment. This is from here you will start writing your statements and then your final braces. Okay. Similar thing is with the while loop. So in while loop you have while and condition. So initialization is above while loop. You will initialize I is equals to 0 over here or I is equals to 1 over here, and then finally your condition, that is I may be less than is equals to 5 in while. Okay, and then braces. So all those conditions you would write in these braces. Okay, and increment is also inside while loop. Okay, then you have a do while loop. In do while loop, it will start from do. All the statements are there, and condition is written in the last, and increment is written inside the loop, and initialization is outside the loop. So these three things are clear to everyone. Uh, Class?
Oh, mom, can you please explain it with an example?
Yeah, sure. Later on, first of all, okay. Uh, so this is example. This is example of a for loop. Okay. So for I is equals to 2, I less than, this is a condition. So you have initialized I is equals to 2, and then I is less than 100, and then I plus plus. So I plus plus means I is equals to I plus 1. So I is equals to I plus 1 can be written as I plus plus, okay, in short. Okay. Now this is again, so because we are discussing nested loop, so in nested loop you have this for loop inside a for loop. Okay, that is while loop inside a while loop. Then you have do while loop inside a do while loop. Okay, so nested loop means loop inside a loop. Okay, now so this is example of nested loop. Before this nested loop, I think you must see example of simple loops. So this is example of simple loop. So for uh okay, let me see where is example loop. Uh, okay, so this is they are saying printf int main return 0. You will write it always. Now printf printf printf. You have written this 10 times. Instead of writing this 10 times, what you will do is you will use loops. Okay, so here you have, this is the syntax of for loop that I have already told you. Now example is you have initialized I is equals to 0. I is equals to 1, then I less than is equals to 2 and 10, sorry, and I plus plus. So how many times this hello world would be printed? 10 times. Now this example is clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, so I hope now loops are clear. Okay, so what loop is doing? It is repeating some statements multiple times, and that condition you will specify how many times. Okay. In nested loop, again, the thing is, suppose you want to run a statement 3 cross 3 times. Suppose there is a matrix. Okay, it is having 5 rows and 2 columns, and number of rows and number of columns are not specified, and you want to add all these elements of row and all the elements of column. Okay, now okay, I will open up paint and I will tell you uh, like, suppose you have this one, two, three. Hmm? Word pay, it will not be, I will not be able to draw this. Uh, okay, one, two, and three, and then two, one, three. Suppose this is a uh, 2 by 3 matrix, right? So number of rows are 2 and number of columns are 3. Now, what I want to do is I want to add this number, this number, this number, this number, this number, and this number. Okay. Now, what is nested loop? What does nested loop do is, so you don't know how many rows and how many columns your matrix would be having. So you will ask user to enter number of rows and number of columns. Okay. Now for each row you want to run the loop, and for all the columns you want to run the loop. So for first row you have 3 columns, for second row you have 3 columns. So for first row, I this value is this one. I'll choose another color. So this is 1 comma 1. This element is 1 comma 1, right? Or because in C it starts from 0, indexing starts from 0. So this is 0 comma 0. This element is 0 comma 1, right? And this element is 0 comma 2, right? And this element is 1 comma, tell me, 1 comma
One. One.
1 comma 0,
Zero.
right? And this element is 1 comma 1, and this element is 1 comma 2. Clear, everyone? Now I
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
run. Okay, so I want to run for loop. Okay, for loop. I will, because writing in it is erase this, and I will write it. Okay, so mm, for mm, 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 for I mm, for typing word is better. It will not work in this system. Huh. So for each row and for each column, I want to run this. So row number varies from 0 and 1, right? And column number varies from 0, 1, and 2. Correct? 0 row and first row, and columns are 0th column, first column, and second column. So for I is equals to 0, what I want to do, till I less than, for each row. So for each row, I less than 1, less than is equals to 1. Okay, semicolon. What I want to do is I is equals to I plus 1, right? Then what I want to do is I want to add a loop, right? Now, for each, so for zeroth row, I want to do for all the columns. Then for first row, I want to do for all the columns. So for j is equals to, right? 0, semicolon, j less than is equals to, what would be the value over here? 1 or 2? Online students?
M2.
2, correct. And then what is increment?
J plus
J
plus.
plus plus, right? So this is the use of nested loop. I hope this nested loop is clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what I want to add these numbers. So I want to add aij. Sum is equals to sum plus aij. Clear? Why I have done this? Anyone? Sum is equals to sum plus aij. Aij may first it will be having 0, 0, then it will be having 0, 1, 0, 2. Then again, inner loop will stop after 0, 1, 2. It will go to outer loop. Then I would be 1. Then 3 times j will run. So that would be 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2. Then 1, 0, 1, 1, and 1, 2. Clear to everybody?
Ma'am, I did not understand AIJ.
Aij. Okay. So when check the first statement. So in this first statement over here, so this one. So what would be the initial value of I?
Zero.
So A 0 and okay 0, then it will start over next statement. So what it is saying again, it is a loop. What would be the value of j here over here?
Zero.
0. Okay, so this statement would run. Now again this loop will run. So j would increment. So what would be the value over here? So sum is equals to whatever the value is in A00. Sum initialize sum is equals to 0.
Ma'am, what
Okay.
is A?
A is equals to array. I have not written it. A is equals to int A.
So, ma'am, it's
Suppose
kind of an indexing, like in
33.
Python.
Yeah.
Uh, okay.
A33 is A is array. A is the name of the array having size maybe 2, 3. Okay. Int A3, and you will also initialize sum is equals to 0. I have just, I have not written the complete program. So it's just the to give you the idea of what would be the values of i's and j's. What would be the next value of I and j? Hmm? Next value of I and j would be
Ma'am, zero, one.
a 0, because only this loop has till now executed once. It will run 3 times, and every time value of j would vary from 0, 1, 0, 2, right? Now, after this inner loop is completed, it will go to outer loop. Okay, so this is the example of nested. It will go to outer loop, then I would be incremented. So value of I would be A1, and it will again enter this loop. Now it will again initialize from 0 and run 3 times. So A1 0, A1 1, and A1 2. Clear everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So start working on loops, start solving the questions.
Ma'am, I'm
Also,
done with question number one.
okay, good. Example. Okay. I'm just explaining this example. You want to note this down? So go through this example. If you face any difficulty in this, let me know. So clear है ये example? Okay.